Welcome, everyone. Make sure you put where you're from in the chat. We can tell where everyone's from. We can search where you live. Just kidding. We'll get started in about 20 seconds. Welcome to PrepperNet Live, by the way. Hey, welcome everyone. I am Forrest. I'm your host this evening. We've got Patrick that's in the green room. We'll bring him in here in a few seconds. I got several announcements I want to go through. First, no need to really see me right now, but I will. I'll throw myself up for a second so you can see that I'm live. Patrick has the icon this evening, so let's get this thing started here.
Are you going to hold up a newspaper with today's date on it for proof of live?
I told him you were in the green room, and there you are. So you're okay. He's actually live with us, but I'll introduce you in a minute because I got so many things to go through. Thanks, Patrick. So, but I could bring something like this. Hey, yep, I'm here in my PrepperNet shirt. And so we'll get started here. The first slide I want to go through fast. So PrepperNet Live is a live streaming bi-weekly. I got so much in trouble when I put bi-monthly. I'm like twice a month, but okay, bi-weekly event to bring you the best and latest from PrepperNet. Our news, interviews, our experts, what is going on in the PrepperNet world. So who's this for? I mean, a lot of people came to me and go, well, I mean, is this for new? It's for really everyone. It's for PrepperNet members and those that are interested in like building a local community where you are. Make sure you join PrepperNet Live. Sorry, PrepperNet.net. That's where our community, that's our own social media ocean pond safe haven is. No one's going to delete. There's free speech. Unless you break our rules, then there's no free speech. But we do have some simple rules. I mean, goodness gracious, people seem to want to break them. But join PrepperNet.net. That's our site. Okay, so everyone's asked about this map. This map, every single logo represents at least one person in that zip code. So as you can see on the East Coast, man, we got it covered. That's at least one person in that zip code. That's not all, 100,000 members we have. It just means that one person's in the zip code, and that kind of represents where we are today. I do want to mention I've written 3 books. I'm the CEO of Son Evans International. I'm a survival instructor. I mean, I'm all this. You guys can read that. A lot of you guys don't know. A lot of you guys know. I mean, so what? You're PrepperNet people, but there's other new people that have never been here before. So I kind of feel like I need to tell people, a little bit about my background. I've written 4 books now, and all 4 of them, when they're released, hit the bestseller list on Amazon in certain categories. And I am making gazillions of pennies. Yeah. If you know anything, one of my books, in my last book, I kind of tell you, how much I make and how much it costs. I believe I get into the details on that. So let's go to the next slide. Oh, so Uncle Buck and myself, we do this thing called the Prepping Academy. It is a podcast, and it is really, we just kind of hang out and talk. I mean, if you're looking to get some major training, we just talk about world events and things. We probably will do some training. We just is like 2 good old guys just sitting back talking about prepping and what's going on in the world and different things. So, hey, download that. We're on every single podcast service known to mankind, I think. Semi-monthly. Oh, someone corrected me. I did bi-weekly, semi-monthly. But it is more semi-weekly. So it is every other week. So I don't even know if that's right. I should do every other week. Anyways, keep going here. Hey, everyone, I am giving away a full package Son Oven. Everything. And the value is over $679 plus. Because there's shipping and taxes and, it's a good deal. Go and register to get one for free. I'm going to give one away. And that's probably in just a couple. I mean, I think that's in like 2 months. I'm going to give that away. And it's free. You can enter. If you enter your email once, you're done. If you have 2 emails, you can enter your 2 emails and hey, you could be entered twice. So let's keep going here. So yeah, enter. It's preppernet.com/giveaway. Preppernet.com/giveaway. Go and don't do it right now though. Just write that down because this what we're getting ready to go over is very important. Oh, Preppy Squirrel, buy 2 semi. Oh, come on. It's every other. I put the dates. Quit giving me a hard time. So you can tell here it's every other week. So we did, the special guest had Kobe. This week we have Patrick Adams. Then next week, oh my gosh, we got so much going on in PrepperNet. Tomorrow night we have a program on privacy and security. That's tomorrow night. You got to go and register. I got the link here in a minute. And then next week is Bug Out Week. I've got Beth G. I forgot the G there. Oh my goodness, Beth. Y'all know Beth. She's probably in the house in the chat room. And Sheepdog 757. I called him. I texted him today and I said Sleep Dog, and I don't even think he got it. I thought it was funny. I laughed. We got Sheepdog 757. We're going to do a Bug Out Bag week, and I'll go over that in the next slide. And then in 2 weeks from today, Uncle Buck and I are going to be on. I know we do the Prepping Academy. We'll be on here live. He'll be my co-host. And the Kilt It Prepper. He's one of my city leaders up in the Roanoke, Virginia area. And then Larry from East Tennessee is coming on April 17th. And then May 1st is a mystery guest. It's so mystery. I don't even know who it is yet. So it's not that people are keeping it from me. I just have not spent the time to think about it yet. So that's the truth of the matter. So let's go to the next thing. Okay, Bug Out Week is next week, March 13th and 16th. That's a Monday night and a Thursday night. Monday night, we're going to talk about everything, why you need a bug out bag, different bug out bags. And we're not going to go through the list. I mean, everyone has the list, but we're going to think about things that you do need in the bug out bag, some things, and depending on geographically where you are, where you're from, and where to keep it. Do you keep it in your car? Do you keep it in your house? We're going to go through that. I'm going to have Beth from a female perspective. I'm going to have Sheepdog from a goodness gracious, a very experienced prepper that's been prepping all his life, and even before he was born, he was prepping. That's just him. And so so we're gonna, and then we'll have me. So, but that's next week on the same channel. Just come back right here and you'll see, oh, there's another live event. And so that will be again March 13th and 16th. And then tomorrow night, it's a free online webinar. My friend Glenn here, we've done business for years together. I guess I met him through Son Oven. But he's doing a free webinar on how to claim your privacy. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, hey, when you lose your privacy, you lose your freedom. And so he's going to show us some crazy things that you can do to reclaim your privacy. Nothing you're doing is illegal. Trust me, the Great Bank, but it seems like it is, but it's not. But if you go to preppernet.com/privacy, you've literally got to sign up for that. When you sign up for that, when you go to that URL, it'll take you, and you have to put your first name and email, and then tomorrow, then they'll, I guess, oh yeah, they do send you the live link because it's tomorrow night. But that is and it's 8:00 Eastern time. Okay, I know that's kind of early for you guys on the West Coast, but that's the time we made it for. So, but it's really good, guys. I'm telling you. I used to do some privacy and security things, and it got overwhelming to try to be an expert in so many. I mean, not that I'm not saying I was an expert. I said trying to be an expert. It just got overwhelming, and I'm like, okay, I got to get someone else in here for this. And this one's great, awesome. So, preppernet.com/privacy. I've sent that out through all the email channels we have as well. So the next, my co-host, his name is Patrick Adams. He is 6'5". He weighs 200 pounds, and he is a stud.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Forrest.
He's our comms leader for all of PrepperNet wide. He is our comms officer. You should salute him when you see him. He's King Nerd. I mean, I can't say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, King Nerd. But he's also my our Knoxville City leader. There's also another position on here I did not even put. And I'm going to talk about this. He is a personal friend, and when I have issues, when I need to talk to people and ask questions, he is a go-to person that I personally call and say, Patrick, what should we do about this? How should we do this? So he is one of my, I'd say 3 or 4 people, go-to people in all of the world that I go to when I need help with things. So I really do appreciate him, and he does so much for not only for Knoxville, but for all of PrepperNet. So, hey, Patrick, welcome, and beautiful photo. I mean, I forgot that beautiful image there. Let me see there. There you are. So
Yes,
say hi to everyone and introduce
So,
yourself.
All right. So, welcome everybody into the stream. I don't know how many people we have. Forrest, maybe you can let us know a little
Right
bit
now it's at 98,000.
Well, that's a good audience. Getting good impressions there. So, I am the Knoxville City leader. Forrest and I met a few years ago, and back sometime around 2020, I fell into the role of helping out with communications. So I wanted to tell everybody just a little bit about how I got into communications, so you guys have an idea a little bit about me. I won't bore you with how I got into prepping, because my prepping story sounds probably like a lot of other folks. So anyway, for the last 17 years, I have worked in the communications industry, in commercial communications, taking care of things that transmit from hundreds of kilohertz to tens of gigahertz. And that's the everyday thing for me. So I bring the commercial communications perspective to the prepping world, where many folks bring the amateur radio or military perspective. And what are you thinking there, Forrest?
I am so sorry, Patrick. Okay. If y'all if y'all see in the chat room someone donated $1.99. Did you see that? So then I got a text, and it's Cody, and I'm like, huh.
Oh,
And I'm like,
okay.
then my son texts me. Well, his name is Cody, by the way. He goes, dude, I donated. Shout me out. So I'm sorry I started laughing. I didn't mean for you to see me, but he is a senior getting ready to graduate from Chapel Hill, and he donates $1.99, which is really strange because I feel like that's my money.
Yeah, well,
I'm
YouTube's
sorry,
going to get
Patrick.
40% of it. So anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of my perspective, a little bit different from all the other folks out there. And I kind of got into communications for prepping and emergencies and that kind of thing, because I felt like there was a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of bad information. And I wanted to try to correct some of that, and wanted to try to help people actually kind of understand what is really probably the most complicated topic that we take on in the prepping world, and probably one of the more important as well. So, yeah, so tonight I got a couple things I'm going to just kind of ramble on about, and Forrest is going to call me a nerd and various other things. And then we're also going to try to answer some questions from all the audience out there, and see what you guys are thinking, see what your communications questions are, and that kind of thing. So if you do have questions, kind of keep them in mind and get ready to drop them in the chat. Don't be a stranger.
Yep. So we do have some counter events that I want us to go through as well.
Oh, yes, we do.
I want you on here to kind of talk through some of these. Let me get rid of us. Okay. You want to go ahead and kind of explain all these? Well, especially the sisterhood. I think you're really into that.
Yeah, I'm so qualified for that one. That one's my specialty. Yeah. So we have the weekly LocalNet every Monday night at 8 p.m. It's a regular zoo in there most of the time, and a good chance to get to know a lot of the PrepperNet community, a lot of the PrepperNet family. There's a lot of folks that hang out in there, and there's a lot of good conversations that get started there that carry on after the kind of formal discussion. The sisterhood night net every Tuesday. I don't really know what they do in there, but it's probably the same stuff that my wife does when she goes and hangs out with her female friends. So I'm not going to try to figure that out. And then our 40-meter digital HF net on Sunday nights. For those of you who are not familiar with digital modes with HF radio, they work kind of like Morse code in a lot of ways. CW, places that voice will not work just due to propagation and interference, digital does work. So we spend time passing forms, doing check-ins, just kind of practicing your skills there. We move to 40 meters this coming weekend. For folks that may be listening to this later than this week, that will be the second weekend in March. So as propagation kind of changes, we move from 80 meters to 40 meters to keep good propagation in that time slot for our users. Then there's the SSB phone net. And this is probably the most confusing net schedule out there. I'm just going to tell you to go to the PrepperNet.net site and look at the event, because we are trying to dodge an Amron event or net in the same time slot. So this net happens when they are not running national nets, which is typically the second and fourth Thursdays of the month, even though we say it's every other Thursday. And then this Mountain Readiness Expo on May 5th through the 7th is somewhere out near Forest and Charlotte. Maybe he can chime in on this and tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, you're not coming
event.
to this, which is
kind of like Heritage Life Skills. I'm probably not going to make this one just because I didn't plan ahead.
Right, yeah. So this was Mountain Readiness. It's kind of on the North Carolina Virginia line, right off 77. They got some big names coming. I've been helping them. They got others have been helping. We're making it kind of a big deal. We have, I can't even name all the people. There's some big names going to be there. PrepperNet's going to be there in a big way. Probably several hundred to 300 people is kind of our goal. I mean, Heritage Life Skills last year we had over, I forgot, it was 160 or something. So we'll probably have a lot more there at Mountain Readiness. We're thinking and hoping. So we've been working with them, and to learn a lot more, you can go to that website. So, but yes, that's coming up May 5th. I'm excited about that. I know we have 5 or 6 PrepperNet people that are teaching there as well. I'm teaching. I don't know what I'm teaching, but I'm teaching something. So, and then next, this is a newbie. This is new, everyone. This is for our guys out there, our ladies and men. I'll say we're actually starting a book club. One of our city leaders is going to be starting this. Her name's Phoenix, and we're going to watch movies. I mean, like together. I mean, literally, there's software that y'all can watch movies and kind of talk together and read books together, that kind of stuff, just so you can, I mean, that's just another way people communicate, I guess, and hang out. Maybe Red Dawn, right?
Yeah. The old one, not the new one.
Okay, the old one. Yes, the old one. And then is there any more? Oh, yes. Okay, here is the thing. So, gosh, it's been probably, I don't know, maybe a year ago. This group of people, this guy had a bunch of meetups in Ohio. And Ohio was, we just didn't go to Ohio. It was one of the last states we went to. And he shut his groups down. He wanted to shut them down. And he asked me, he said, does PrepperNet want the groups we've started in Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, and Akron, and Columbus? And I said, sure. So he literally, I think, handed all these to us. And so they were kind of dead, meaning they weren't doing anything with them. And you can see they're kind of dead now, but no, not all of them. We've had leaders, but right now we need leaders in Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, and Akron. Columbus, Phoenix does Columbus, but I mean, isn't there a train derailment there? Maybe you need to be learning some things that, but we need city leaders in this areas. And you can see Akron has 754 people. Toledo on 96, Cincinnati 800, Dayton 650. So there's groups already there. We need people to step up and be leaders. And sometimes we go to the group and say, hey, anybody want to step up to be a leader? But sometimes that's not the best way to get a leader, because you wouldn't believe the yahoos are going, yeah, I'll take it over. Yeah. So anyway, if you would like to be a leader and you can help us, or you know people that could help us in them groups, imagine this. This is the sad thing. In Akron / Northeast Ohio, we have 754 members, and they're not meeting. They're not meeting each other. They're not getting trained. And we need people there to kind of help organize it. And if you're interested, is Beth G in the house? I forgot, what is her name here. Her name's Beth G. I think it's just BG.
She has so many names I can't keep track of.
Yeah, she does. But Beth G on PrepperNet.net. Well, yes, Beth G. If you look at BG, that stands for the BGs. Beth equals BG. That's interesting. That's not the math. She went to public school.
That must be this new Common Core math. I'm not.
Yes. Yeah. Jerry said she's a rock star. Yes. So just send her a message on PrepperNet.net or whatever. Okay, let's keep going. Got to move on. So I have a video of the week, and this is all about self-defense. Okay. And this is the video of the week. Every week, I like to do a good video that helps people with mindset and training. And this is the video this week. And so turn up your radios. Yeah, turn up your radios here. Okay, I may play it. I don't know. Maybe we can just get it once. So here we go. I'm going to be quiet.
Today, I'm going to be demonstrating how to defend yourself if your mom ever comes swinging at you with a sandal. This right here is my brother. He's going to be playing my mom. So let's say you did something wrong, right? And she swings at you. Pop. Now you have wrist control. What you want to do now is move the trajectory of the sandal away from your face and then pivot inward. From here, you can either break her arm. What I like to do is turn it around. Pop. Now she's disarmed and you have full control. Hey! Show me. Okay, guys, this is my actual mom. Let's do this one more time. So let's say she swings at you, right?
Okay. I think that's hilarious. That's just funny.
Don't mess with mama.
Don't mess with mama. That's the truth of things, isn't it? Okay. And then one last thing before we get in the good meat of it. I always ask my guests, my co-hosts, for a book. And this is the book that Patrick picked out, and I want him to tell us why.
Well, partially because I'm reading at the moment, but that's, but there's also, one of the things that we sometimes, in the prepping world, we like to get caught up in our own idea of what SHTF is going to be like, what a disaster, what a collapse is going to be like. And, who knows what it's actually going to be like here in the U.S. There's so many different variables that are not what go on in other places. But reading what actually happened in places from people that lived through it, if you really want to find out how evil man can be, and if you ever have any, questions about whether or not man is basically good or bad, read this book and you'll get your answer there. So, just a good reality check for everybody.
Yeah, this guy lived it. I mean, he lived through some brutal stuff, and so all his books are excellent for sure.
So yeah, recommend that one. There's a few others like that. The guy named Fairfowl, he had a blog a little over a decade ago I used to follow that lived through the Argentinian collapse. He's got some good stuff too. But anyway,
yeah, I'm somewhat sad you didn't pick one of my books, but that's okay. That would I'm just kidding, man. Okay, next. Okay, so since I have the expert now, I would say so there is an organization called Amron, and okay, tell me what Amron stands for again.
It's the American Readout Radio Operators Network.
Yes, and that is ran by, one of the leaders is JJS. Good friend of mine. I flew out there, gosh, it's been a year ago, and met with him out in Spokane area, I guess, or somewhere in Washington. But they are like the king daddies of communications and comms.
They have caught lightning in a bottle in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Is the best way to describe it. But
Yeah.
very dedicated group of really, really top-notch guys on most fronts that are developing a lot of really cool communications method and doing more practice than any other group I've ever seen. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a lot of people mad, but I seem to do that a lot. I mean, if you're in your local ham club, it's time to get off the repeaters and talk, nationwide. And literally, Amron has a nationwide net. So do we. But so you're literally a representative from Amron helping PrepperNet and being our communication officer.
Sort of, or maybe I'm a representative of PrepperNet with Amron. I'm not sure exactly which way that goes, but somehow I'm the liaison between the two organizations.
Yes, you are.
That happened. Yes. I don't know how, it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So
we
voted
you. Actually, we voted you in when Bravo.
Yeah. Our dearly departed friend.
Yes. So tell us what's going on. And this is, since I have you on, I wanted to make all this about comms. And you know what? I'm going to tell you guys something, and you're going to hate me. About 5 years ago, I stood up in Charlotte and told people that I didn't understand comms people, and comms was absolutely useless. I think I've changed my mind since then, don't you think?
This is not the first time Forrest has been wrong.
Yeah, I did. And people were kind of mad and making fun of me, and I just didn't know better. But I've learned, since then I've been on your digital nets. I want to verify. Have you ever seen me on the digital net? Have I ever checked in?
My very first net. You checked
Thank you.
in. I still have the net log.
Yeah, because there are people that think, oh no, you don't. And I'm like, no, I've done that. And so anyway, but let's talk all things comms. Now, if you don't have comms and radio, so where do you want to start? You want to start at the easy peasy stuff?
Yeah. So first, I want to give a shout out to a couple folks in chat.
Okay.
Pistol Pete and Jerry Bauer. Those guys are rock stars, and they are helping me do a lot of the things that I do. There's only one of me, and they are taking the day-to-day load off of a lot of the stuff that we do, so I can kind of do this kind of thing and push the group forward rather than being buried in paperwork. So shout out to those guys.
And Jerry is from Texas, and Pistol Pete.
Yep.
Yeah, San Antonio. Yes. Pistol Pete is Raleigh.
Yep.
So yes.
And so kind of moving on a little bit from that, and again, you'll see those guys in the chat, wonderful guys. And one of the things I want to kind of talk about just out of the gate is a little update on the actual PrepperNet comms side of things, because even though you guys don't necessarily hear from us a lot, we try not to spam folks that are part of the .NET site with all the goings on. I do want to there's new people. Maybe you want to get plugged in. Maybe you want to learn things. There's tons of opportunities to learn. We already talked about the 40/80 meter net on Sunday nights. We also run a voice net that we did a little discussion about. There is also a Winlink net that Jerry has taken over from me that basically is email over radio. And if you're new to digital modes, you want to learn about Winlink, check us out on the .NET site. We can talk about that. We can answer questions about that. But it's another way that, because it's like email over radio, if you can't make it at 9 o'clock, you got a whole month, because we run it on a monthly rotation, to find a couple minutes to send an email via radio. So, and again, thanks, Jerry, for helping us out with that. We're also revising our signals operating instructions for national. That is available on the PrepperNet.net site. I will hopefully be releasing version 2 in the next couple of months with some updates. And that's really a plan for how all the city groups on a national level can communicate. It's not a plan for your local city group or necessarily your MAG group, but it's a way that we all interface together and can also interface with Amron under some circumstances. We are also working on some training opportunities. If you watch the .NET site, you will get to see some information about that. I'm going to try to do some more things where folks can learn, can ask questions, maybe do some in-person classes in the North Carolina, Tennessee area for folks that want to really get a kickstart on things. So I'm working on a handful of different things to try to help folks get up to speed and learn about comms. Because I'm gonna pick on Forrest here for a second. So in your hierarchy of preparedness things, we have air, shelter, water, food, then what? Or maybe better, where does comms fall in that line of important things?
Well, I will tell you, like I said, 5 years ago, it was dead last. Now I truly believe, and this is I don't know if someone phrased it this way or I came up with this myself. So the information you don't know can kill you.
Indeed.
And so if you're talking about protecting your herd, your tribe, your group, you've got to know what's going on out there. And it's also a force multiplier, even if it's just local. So comms is as important as your food, because without comms, you may lose everything you have.
It's very true. I actually, in my list, would put comms almost above defense, because if you know the threat is coming, you can avoid the threat rather than having to face it off. And lots of other folks who have spent more time at the tip of the spear than most of us have would tell you that, eventually you're not going to come out on top. So that information, that knowledge is power. So
Yeah, you could take a group of 100 people versus a group of 20 people that have comms, and the 20 people will dominate. It's a huge force multiplier. And even to uplift yourself, to be able to catch people on like a shortwave radio, or be able to download, like, I know this is not the same, but you could download a weather map, or you could find out information that is going on in Texas that's good news that could lift your spirits up. It could be not only a force multiplier, but it can be a morale booster. Of course, it can bring you down too. You can't find anyone out in the world, and you're the only one left.
And I want to talk about that topic a little more. I actually had it a little further down the list of stuff I wanted to discuss, but this is a good time to talk about it. Right now, while the grid is up and we are in a very permissive environment comparatively, there's nobody out there trying to get us per se, and we can kind of freely make new friends and that kind of thing. It's important now to get to know people on the radio. I mean, I know people from practically all 48 states, and I've got to talk to people in other countries, and getting to know people now, and being able to determine what quality of information that you can get when the grid goes down, when an event happens, is super important, because we see this situation over and over and over, that governments, different people, organizations, everybody's got an agenda and everybody's pushing propaganda. So you can be that person that, I'm just going to get my radio and I'm going to listen, and or I'm just going to have it in a box, and then I get it out and I start listening to my shortwave radio, or I start listening to my HF radio or whatever, you don't have any idea if this person that's on the air is high on something, or a lunatic, or what their agenda is for what they're talking about after some catastrophe. There's always misinformation, and within the emergency preparedness, emergency communications community, within hurricane disaster relief, we're always fighting misinformation and bad information. Somebody hears something, it's not right, and then they start repeating it for the gospel. And that kind of thing. So it's, it's really a situation if you really need to develop those relationships now. Because, I'll use Jerry, for example. Jerry says something, I know it's probably right. He's not going to spread bad information. But, if you don't know that, now's a good time to start working on that and building those relationships and that community. And, that's part of why we're here at PrepperNet. Because, Forrest, what's your famous quote?
If you're not in a group, you're going to die.
Thank you.
You got to be in a group of people. You can't do it by yourself.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question. There are people that they don't know what comms are really, but
okay.
I'm going to make a suggestion. If you're listening and you're like, what about comms? What is ham? It doesn't take us. You don't need any help whatsoever from us to be able to go out there and find information on getting your technician license, study for the test, and get and pass the test. You don't, there's not much we can help you except maybe tell you how to study for it. So your first step, that should be your absolutely first step, is to, there's 1,000 websites, but go on preppernet.net and just ask the question, new, looking to get my ham license, what does everyone recommend? And all of a sudden you're going to have like 50 people kind of tell you what to do. But it's easy. Just go get your technician license.
And I will even say, getting your ham radio license is a phenomenal step. Getting your technician, preferably getting your general, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But the other thing is, sit down and figure out what you need your communications to do. Mm-hmm. Because some folks, I always make this, if you've listened to me before somewhere, you've heard me make this comment before. Most guys, your 16-year-old daughter, your 18-year-old daughter who's at school, she's probably not going to get her ham radio license. Okay. It's probably not going to happen. And that leaves you with two options. You can do GMRS, which when you get a license, it covers your entire family, or you can do license-free stuff if you're lucky enough to be within a couple of miles of where she's at. And then, of course, the last option is PrepperNet. Find someone that is in the area near where she's at that is willing to be that communications bridge should something happen. So, sit down, build a realistic set of expectations for what your communications are going to be. Otherwise, oftentimes I see folks get into this and then they get disappointed when they realize the reality and the complexity of, accomplishing some of the things that they decide they want to do. So, figure out what you need, move from there. And with that, I'm going to kind of, as we're talking about that, break communications down into kind of three different types. There's what some folks would call tactical communications. Those are fast-paced, instantaneous communications. That's what most of us think about. Keying up a radio, you need, emergency medical services. You need, something that is instantaneous. You need it right now. Or it could even be, you're at the front counter at Lowe's and somebody's asking, hey, I need a price check on this item on aisle, whatever. Those are tactical communications. There are also strategic communications. That's that information that you collect from either, tens, hundreds, thousands, potentially of miles away that may impact you at a later date. That's knowing, hey, there were 80-mile-an-hour winds clocked 2.5 hours west of here. And in 2.5 hours, they're probably going to be here. Do I have to deal with it right now? No. But it helps me to plan. And that's an instantaneous example, much faster paced example of that. But it is, kind of an example of that kind of thing. And then the last type of traffic that we see is something called welfare traffic. And welfare traffic has been around. There are traffic nets in amateur radio that specialize in handling this. And this is, hey, my grandma lives at this address. Can someone go check on her and make sure she's okay and get me an answer back when there's not another communication method available? So those are kind of the three types of traffic that we would commonly see, the three types of radio communications we would see. And we need to figure out, okay, what do I need for each of them? Where are my priorities? Where do I want to put my resources? I'd love to own every gun in the gun store, but it's not within my resources to do that. Forrest, you can probably do that, but the rest of us poor
folks, I've done that twice now.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. So, yeah, that's good stuff. So Also, so how does PrepperNet uh, get into your comms plan, or becomes your comms plan, or your group plan? I just want to touch that just a little bit, and anything I say wrong here,
Okay.
Patrick, you correct me. So what PrepperNet has is we have cities throughout the United States. We call them city groups, meetups.
Mhm.
These are not your personal mag group or survival group. These are public groups you go and meet. So each one of them, our goal is to have a comms leader. Not only a city leader, we want a comms person, and that person would be kind of in charge of facilitating training, getting people on like local nets and practicing, and then moving people from like the beginning, the technician, to a general, at least minimum a general everyone should be. And I'm telling you what, when people call you general, it feels pretty good. That's what I expect. General Garvin's what? No, I'm kidding. So, but to get to the general license, that allows you to do HF. Then we have this national backbone, in a sense, a persistent net that Patrick will all be on it, listening. And so each city then in the future, when a city, let's say Columbus, Ohio, needs to speak to someone in Charlotte, North Carolina, they can go through the digital net, relay the information to the Charlotte comms leader. The Charlotte comms leader then can get on the local repeaters, if it's GMRS, if it's 2 meters, whatever it is, and get the information to an actual person in Charlotte. That is when we have it all working perfectly. We can do that throughout the United States. And that's why we have people that I call the backbone people, which is Patrick and Jerry and Pistol Pete and many others as well. They'll be able to send that traffic from Columbia to the Charlotte area, because not everyone in Charlotte is going to become we need doctors and we need nurses and we need people with other
Exactly.
skills. So not everyone needs to be that very proficient
Yeah.
digital comms person.
You
But
need
we need a bunch of them, but not everyone, correct?
Correct. We need a couple of those folks in each city group. The more, the merrier. I mean,
Yes.
I'll be honest with that. But yeah, at a minimum, we need, that kind of connectivity and that kind of, participation and community. And another thing about digital that we talk about, kind of on a strategic level, is digital is also a force multiplier in a different way. A lot of people go, "Oh, I don't want to mess with digital. That's too complicated. That's too difficult." Well, it is more complicated and it is more difficult, but I don't want to sit by my radio all day long. And I can leave my radio running. Right now, while I'm on doing this, my radio is sitting over here copying traffic from a net that's going on. And I don't have to look at it and don't have to directly interact with it until later. So, if there's information that may affect me in days, I've got it when I go look at it, and I'm not bound to having to sit there. And that's a huge force multiplier, because there's only one of me and I can only do
Right.
so many things. So, yeah, that's the goal, is to have a more of a national presence. Each city group would ideally have a communications leader that can, one, participate on a national level, preferably a couple of folks that can do that. And then someone else that can also help plan within that local group with the resources that are locally available to come up with a plan that works for all of those folks. So the people that, some folks would call them button pushers, that, they just need to be handed a radio and do this if you need something. I love the scene in Black Hawk Down at the very beginning, where, the Americans are flying in, and the little kid spots the American helicopters coming in, and he calls, this guy that's on the roof, and then the guy drops the cell phone down to the warlord and, lets him know there's a level in place for everybody. And having that kind of awareness, it's one of the big things about communications is, you want to know the Americans are coming, right? So those sorts of force multiplication type things, and we need city comms leaders that can do that. We need folks that, and here's the thing, I can spend more time with a handful of city comms leaders, Pete, Jerry, some of the other guys. We can spend time with a handful of people and get them up to speed. So if you want to learn and you don't know everything, again, hit us up on the .net site, and we'll try to get you plugged in, get you with somebody to help get you up to speed on a lot of that stuff, so you can take it back to your city group and you can teach those folks, because that's how we multiply that.
Right. And currently, I would say PrepperNet has thousands of comms people. Literally, we have thousands. I know, like 4 years ago, we had a guy named Natty, great guy. We trained over 200 people to get their technician license, and then we did another push with Bravo and yourself. 2 years ago, probably. We had a bunch of people. So PrepperNet as a whole, we have thousands of people that have their ham license. Thousands.
Yeah, but if your radio's in a box in your basement, get it out and use it.
Right. And so we've got to practice. And so we do these nets. We need to have local nets, and then we need to have, the national nets. And imagine one day you're in your group, your bug out group, and you fire up the equipment. You talk locally with other groups, and then you can talk nationally and find out what's going on. This is needed. This is stuff is needed in our and just practicing and getting information. Even shortwave radio, just listening is good.
Yep. And talking about that, let's talk about communications capabilities for just a second, because a lot of folks who don't know anything about communications, we're taking this from I use my cell phone, and I'm dependent on a few $1 billion worth of infrastructure every day to do everything I need communications wise. So when we talk about HF radio or high frequency radio, that's the general class or higher in the amateur radio world. This is a unique asset that we as hams have access to that not really anyone else has access to other than the military. We can use it's fairly complex, and I don't want to get too far into it here, but we can use different frequencies throughout the day and year to communicate anywhere from over the ridge. I live on one side of the Smokies. A lot of PrepperNet folks live on the other side. Obviously, we can't see each other. I can communicate 50 miles across the Smoky Mountains with no infrastructure. HF allows us to do those sorts of things. We can communicate there. If band conditions are good, we can communicate across the United States or even across the ocean. So, that's kind of when we talk about HF radio, that's what we're talking about. It's lower in frequency. It behaves much like shortwave radio, if any of you guys have listened to shortwave radio over the years. It is a very, very powerful tool. It shows up in almost every domestic government collapse around the world. When Cuba was experiencing riots a couple years ago, that's how information was getting in and out of Cuba. If you search the internet, you can find all kinds of occurrences of HF being used to communicate out of areas that are falling apart, because it doesn't require any infrastructure. It does require a pretty high level of skills, but it's not impossible. And that's, one of the things we can help get you up to speed with.
So let me ask everyone that's in the chat room, if you have your license, say, hey, I have my license. If you want to put your call sign in there, put your call sign in there. I don't care. I'll take your word for it. If you just say, I have my license, or if you want to get your license, say, hey, want to get my license. And so we can kind of get a feel of people on here, where you are in the process.
Yeah.
And I would encourage everybody to join PrepperNet.net and get into the comms group, and then, we'll help you get your license. But go ahead. I know there's a little delay here.
So I want to take a question right quick here. Rita Harris asked, how much does one need to get their license? Cash. How much does it cost to get into ham radio and get your license? Well, the FCC imposed a fee recently for getting your license. It's $35 for them to process the paperwork for 10 years. You have to take a test.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly straightforward. It's fairly inexpensive. When it comes to equipment, that's a loaded question, because it really depends on what you want to do. There are guys that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building DX stations to try to, you know, chase weak signals from Russia or Africa or whatever, or want to talk to Australia on skip. You know, the people spend huge amounts of money in ham radio. And then the other side of that is, you know, people spend $35 on a bow thing and then realize it doesn't work much better than an FRS radio under a lot of circumstances.
Right.
So it really depends on what you want to do. And that's one of the reasons I would encourage, figure out what you want to do and what your goals are before you go and start buying equipment.
Yep. Yeah, we got all kinds of people in here. Got tech, extra, people wanting to get their license. I give a shout out to Tom. He's got his extra class. Tom, I forgot to give you the satellite communication stuff that I have when we went out to eat the other night. So we've got to, if you're going to be, I'm sorry, I know this is a personal note, but Tom, if you're going to be at the Charlotte meetup, I'm going to bring that because I want to get you that site. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I'm Patrick.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's
I'm going
on
to
the
give
shelf
what I have to Tom, and he's going to. He is a, yeah.
Let's not waste time on that. We can chat with that later. But anyway, so yeah, and then kind of the other side of things when we talk about 2 meters, 70 centimeters, VHF, UHF. When you hear those terms tossed around, those are much higher frequencies. They perform in a very line of sight manner. So, you know, if the curvature of the earth is going to get in the way, then those are not going to work beyond that. So in those situations, height is king. I have made connections from Knoxville, where I am at, all the way to Black Mountain, North Carolina, where there is a wonderful repeater located on Mount Mitchell, with 5 watts and a small directional antenna because of the height situation there. So, you know, VHF, UHF is all about height. Between 2 portable radios that you're carrying around, under you know, basic simple circumstances, those sorts of radios are not going to communicate more than a few blocks, maybe a couple of miles between people. So it really is a learning what your gear is capable of, and even in your environment. I live in a very difficult RF environment because I'm in the mountains. Folks who live out in the plains may have it a lot easier. Another thing I will tell people related to that, you know, again, storm damage. We just saw a lot of high winds blow through East Tennessee and other areas. You really you need to at some point develop the skills to work on your gear, because lots of folks had their antennas torn down, blown away, destroyed, that kind of thing. So you know, that can put you in a pinch in a really fast way. So you know, that's kind of a little bit of the basics there on that kind of stuff. And there's folks asking other questions. Yeah,
that was just nerd city, man.
Basics. But that's, you know, familiarization with terms. When people see it that way, oh yeah, I saw that, and I've heard that, and this kind of clicks and makes a little sense. But that's one of the other things. Ham radio, for a lot of folks, or any radio for that matter, is really one of those things where you go and you take the test and you have no idea what you just did, and until you actually get out there and start doing it, it doesn't make sense. And then when you start doing it and you start seeing it, it starts to make sense. Like the whole atmospheric skip thing with HF. People don't understand that when they read the textbook.
Yeah.
When you see it in action, you go, oh, that's cool.
So let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Patrick. If everyone in PrepperNet were to start practicing, start learning, getting on the local nets. LocalNet is like your city. And then many of us start getting on the digital net and everything. Would we be one of the largest organized groups in the world? I mean, that's pretty.
I don't know for sure, but I would say more than likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a good.
I'm just saying Amron has many for sure, but I mean, we've got our numbers are just overwhelming when it comes to, because Amron, you can't even, there's no reason to be a part of Amron if you're not already a ham operator. But we have, our numbers are in the 100,000, and I bet we have, I don't know what the, a good, 5% is 5,000 people. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we have that many, but what we need is definitely city leaders in the comms, and we've got a team that can help. I don't care if you don't know what ham radio is, or you want to become the city leader for PrepperNet in your local area. Our group of people, Patrick and his team, can help you no matter where you are on that line. And that's what we're here for.
Yep.
And I pay you so much money that you'll quit everything you're doing to do this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I need help. That's why I'm getting help from some wonderful folks within the group. So, yeah. So, that's kind of the little bit of the 30,000 feet view of this, because, I've made the joke in the past, I can get you hitting a milk jug at 1,000 yards faster than I can get you proficient with comms. It's just, there's so much to learn in a lot of cases, but that's the other reason why you have to figure out what you want to do. Ham radio is not the solution for everybody. It is a solution. It is not the solution. It is the most powerful solution, but again, it is just a solution. So
my most powerful solution for communication would be my AR-15.
Yes.
People always hear me on that.
Sending a message at 3,100 feet per second.
Yeah, exactly. With love.
So, yeah, but that's the thing. And that's the other thing, if you get into our comms group, if you join up with us, I can't consult with everybody online. If you really have questions, we can work something out. But that's there's a lot of information there. There's a ton of reading. There's a ton of material in there. And we're working. I'm working on some other material to help people, design their communications plans. That's a little side project I've got going. I don't know when it's going to be done, but eventually it will.
Okay, some questions. So I do want to say this. Thank you for the donation, whoever that was. Listen, guys, the best way to help us is not to donate here. That's fine. I love that. That means you love what we're doing, but is becoming a premium member on our website, and there's all kinds of benefits on that. But I don't even want to talk about that much, because it's not about the money here. It's about connecting people. But we do have, so if you have a question at this point, type your question in over there, and we've got people that will answer it in the comments, and we've got an expert, Patrick. And so here's our first question. Patrick.
Can I hit one that I see there I want to catch?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's Don S. You ask what resources are there within PrepperNet for learning digital? So there is some stuff on the .NET site, but one of the fastest ways to learn digital is going to be to hop on YouTube. There's a bazillion videos on setting up FL Digi. If you get stuck, hit me up or Pete or one of the other guys, and we can help you get it started. And then get on Zello in the PrepperNet Comms Zello group. We have our own group. You do have to be a licensed amateur operator to join that group. It's just kind of our way of keeping the head count a little bit lower. And we will be happy to teach you I teach people how to send traffic and do stuff all the time while we're doing the nets on Sunday nights. So, get in that group and we'll get you up to speed. That's probably one of the better ways.
Okay, here's the next question. Can you see them on the screen?
So do local radio groups meet up in person? There is one group over in North Carolina that is very comms focused, but typically it's just going to be your local city group. And the hope would be, and our goals for eventually, is for those city groups to set up a some sort of net, either on a repeater or simplex, or build a plan. And again, we're working on some documentation and some detailed data on some ideas to help people get that kind of thing going here, to be released in the near future, hopefully.
So Patrick, do we have any Amron people that maybe could step up? Because Carl's busting his butt out there in Denver.
Out in Denver, let me
Yeah.
investigate. I know there's some Colorado Amron folks, but most Amron folks have gotten out of cities by now. So it may be a challenge to find somebody in Denver, but we can certainly look.
Okay.
Let's see.
Or you've already answered that one.
I've
Sorry.
already answered that one. Jerry McNeely asked, would I ever recommend CB radio? CB is a unique beast. CB has its place. It gets, and I don't want to go into propagation, but it's kind of teeters on the edge of HF and line of sight communications. The biggest problem with CB is almost every CB install that I've ever seen is not done right. The antennas on CB are fairly large. And because of that, everybody's trying to figure out a way to make a shorter antenna, and you don't have much power to work with to begin with.
And also, I don't know any preppers that have CBs. I happen to have one for my vehicle, but preppers in general don't have one. If you want to talk to people with CBs, you're not talking to like-minded people, except CBers. You're not talking to a lot of preppers.
But there might be a place and a niche for it, but it would not be my first go-to.
Okay, how about Doctor here? His question here.
I have a Baofeng, and I can talk local. What product should I buy next? That really depends on what your communications goals are. I would, obviously you're probably talking through a repeater locally. So if you've got a general, I would work on, maybe moving towards some HF communications. Or I would move up to a radio that's a little more rugged and a little more durable, possibly, than the Baofeng. Baofengs are like the high point of radios. They go bang most of the time, and they have a place. But
okay, I'll throw the questions up. You answer them.
Okay. Exterior antenna is required for HF. Yes. An 80-meter antenna that is resonant is 134 feet long, horizontally. Typically, we would want to put that about 40 feet-ish in the air for invis. Don't worry about that if you don't know what it means. Live near an airport, foresee problems. That can be a problem, but typically if it's under 200 feet, it's not much of a problem.
Yeah,
200 feet, the FAA requires you to light it. Let's see. Traveling van life or RVing? Now that's a good question. If you are traveling and living that actually might be a place for having a CB, just because of the trucker intel that you can get, finding out what's going on. There are some very nice 2-meter 70-centimeter radios, some of the top of the line ones that ICOM and Yaesu makes. I can't give you model numbers off the top of my head, that will allow you to program them with an SD card like you would use in a camera, and automatically download information from the area that you're going into. So if you're traveling a lot, it's one of the things with things being locally oriented. You have to spend a lot of time programming and building that, but there are places like Radio Reference and other sites, repeaterbook.com, that kind of thing, where you can get that data, and some of it can be downloaded and just dumped into those radios very quickly as you move into a new area. So just something to consider there. And of course, HF is always nice, but we won't get into HF mobile.
Well, if you got a question, make sure you place it, ask the question. We'll throw it up. CB talk. I'm just not, I have one because each radio has a place, and a CB has a place when you're traveling, I believe. So I do have a portable CB that I can just plug into the cigarette lighter in my vehicle.
So I'm gonna pick on a comment somebody made here. Ken Fan commented. I think that's how you pronounce your last name. I'm sorry if I butchered that, man. But he talked about internal communications and low power with CB. Well, this past weekend, I believe it was, there were some guys running a digital mode on single sideband CB. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. It's just a different modulation method like AM or FM. And they were running a type of digital mode, and the band was open all the way up to 10 meters, and they were working Europe with CBs. So, yeah, under typical conditions, it's a local thing, but under certain circumstances, it can go a very long way. It's just not predictable. That's the big problem. And
Okay.
with communications, we need predictable.
Well,
Yes,
also, I'm just telling you, I'm not saying, I'll just say this as general for PrepperNet. We've never pushed CBs. CBs
Yeah,
have I don't know anyone that has CBs that use it on a regular basis. So if you want a CB and talk to people with CBs, great, do that. But you're not going to be talking to many like-minded people. Preppers, if they have a radio, 90% of them have probably a Belfang. Everyone started out with a Belfang. I bet even Jerry, Pistol Pete, and Patrick has a Belfang.
I do. It's for demonstration purposes only.
It's for demonstration purposes only.
Mine's
but yes,
actually
any communication. I would
Belfang.
go GMRS at the bare minimum, and I would put CB below that, but that's just me.
That's, and that's a question. It depends on what you want to do. That's the whole thing. Yeah. I'm not a CB fan. Yeah, like I said, trucker intel. That's one of the good applications of CB.
The truckers won't be moving when the crap hits the fan.
Exactly. I mean, right now that's its purpose.
80% of all CBs will be offline.
Yeah, and there's a couple other niches, but I don't want to spend time talking about those tonight. You can hit me up about niches for that kind of thing later. Let's see. Somebody asked, can you send up a antenna on a balloon? Yes, people do actually do that. In fact, the balloon that I think we shot down over Lake Michigan had amateur radio stuff on it for weather gathering. I think,
and we've talked about that, haven't we?
That's true. Yeah,
we talked about that for PrepperNet communications.
We have. It's just really cost prohibitive and has some issues. But so someone's saying you're not allowed to have an antenna on a roof. Can you send up an antenna on a balloon? You could, but it's going to have to be a very big balloon to support the cable coming back down to the house. That's a problem.
And you can hide antennas pretty easy.
You can, and HF is kind of that world, and we could teach class on that, just on loading up gutters and doing improvised antennas. And there's a guy that checks into the net almost every Sunday night. His antenna is literally 4 feet off the ground on plastic electric fence posts in his backyard, and it gets him 200 miles to get where he needs to go. So So somebody asking about EMP protection. That's a topic for a whole nother discussion. I'm sorry, man. We don't have time for that one tonight. But yes, there is EMP hardening you can do for radio gear.
Someone disagrees with me.
Yeah, there's always going to be somebody that disagrees. CBers are very passionate.
Especially me. Everybody disagrees with some things I say. Another one is this. Belfang is the gateway drug for sure.
It has become that. I remember when they first came out, I'd had my license for a long time then, and we're like, what are these pieces of, okay.
So if you ever listen to any of my survival group, my group has over almost 500 Belfang radios, and they're all programmed. They're all ready to go. We're going to treat them like, hey, if it breaks, you throw it down and grab another one. Yeah. But we have since went to the Anytone radio, which in off-grid time, when the grid's down, you can actually put in secure communications in there that's encrypted.
Yeah, just realize that I'm just going to throw this out there, and I'm not going to follow this, but realize that yes, it's secure, but I can still find you.
Yes,
and I can still learn a lot about you. So not secure for non-permissive environments.
Well, you are in the top 1,000,000% too.
Well, your Bubba Finder will still find it. You've got a
your location, absolutely. Yeah,
you can. But anyway, So yeah, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, the Anytones are pretty good. I have one. Mine doesn't work right completely at the moment because it went into drink while we were at bug out camp. But
Preppy Squirrel says Anytone is made by the same company as Belfang.
yes, it is. But on a spectrum analyzer, it's a much better radio.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything else with the Chinese. It depends on what you tell them to build, they build.
Right.
So there's a lot of folks that love bow things. They have their place. They're very common, and everybody needs to know how to use them. It's just somebody has a places in the trash can.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh wow.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I am. I said I owned one, so I can.
I own one too. So yeah, that's the thing. So another tip I'll give folks. We're talking about bow things. One question. Oh, and you've got something up here I got to answer too, but I'm going to throw this out here real fast.
Okay.
Piece of information that was given to me by an Elmer of mine a long time ago. Your first radio, if you're getting an amateur radio, get a mobile. Don't get a handheld. And especially you really need somebody to help you install it and get the antenna and everything set up right. But if you've got access to that, go that route, because 50 watts will make up for a multitude of operating sins. And I hear a lot of folks, hey, I got my HT and there's one repeater, because we're preppers. We like to live in rural areas. There's one repeater I can get to, maybe, and I have to stand outside in this one spot in my front yard. If you've got an antenna on your truck and a mobile in it, that's not going to be the case almost everywhere. So anyway, what was that question you had? Somebody responding about
this
YouTube.
One.
Yeah.
The Anytone 878. That's what I have.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Anytone has made a lot of money off that radio because they have created excellent documentation for it.
And training. They do training on their site as well.
And DMR is the most complicated digital system. I think I'm trying to decide if programming DMR is worse than programming Motorola Type 2.
Do we have any DMR nets still?
But there's a couple of guys that still hang out on Brandmeister around lunch. But nothing official. I can't keep a net control, and I don't have time to do it.
Yeah, Bravo and I started that many years ago. Yeah,
so if you guys want, if somebody wants to start that, reach out to me on the .net site, and maybe we could get a DMR net up and going again. But it's just I can't keep anybody doing it. So
that's about, and I'm not sure what this question is about.
Yeah, I'm wondering what that is too. But that's the thing. So with communications, we've talked about force multipliers. We've talked the 878's a portable. It's a handy talkie. That does VHF, UHF, and we'll also run a digital mode called Digital Mobile Radio, DMR. And you can go read online about DMR as much as you want to. It's not for beginners. Okay. DMR is complicated. Okay. It makes my head hurt, and I do this professionally.
And you got to have a Wi-Fi system. Oh, well, not in Charlotte now. They've tied in a bunch of DMR repeaters together now.
So somebody said, I would be worried that putting an antenna on my truck for a mobile setup would be likely to get broken into. So I have a couple of friends that drive around with upwards of $10,000+ in Motorola gear in their trucks every day. And nobody ever bothers it. It's radio gear is entirely too traceable based off serial numbers and programming to be pawnable. So most of the time, it's not really a high value thing like a stereo.
Okay. And let's be honest, nerds aren't thieves.
Exactly. It's not, no, I'm not saying it's not impossible.
I know,
and it probably does happen, but it's not something I worry about. I'm more worried about my tools and my other stuff than I am that.
How about Richard? What mobile would you get?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yaesu FTM 6000 probably. That would be a Yaesu FTM 6000. There are a lot of other good radios. I will say I do not own a Yaesu FTM. I think it's an FTM 6000. It's a 2 meter 70 centimeter radio that's a single tuner. Yaesu released it about a year ago. I have some ICOMs that are set up very similar to it that I like, but the price point and capability is pretty good.
Rita says they'll steal anything in Seattle. Well,
Yeah,
I actually probably believe that actually.
that's true. And everybody's leaving Seattle and Portland and that kind of thing. So there's, they'll steal the tires off the car as
Right.
well.
And Fusion, I have a Fusion, I have an 857D, and I'm looking to sell
Yeah.
that if anybody wants
So-
to buy that. I want to sell it for like $5,000. It's not worth that, but if you're interested, let me know. But if I do want to sell that.
So Fusion, I don't like Fusion. I don't like D-Star. The big reason I don't like those is the repeaters. I've spent some time taking care of repeaters and infrastructure and that kind of thing, and a lot of that equipment is not very robust. It's not built like the Motorola or the GE or the Kenwood commercial stuff. It's not in the same class, and that's my gripe about it. A lot of folks love it. A lot of people have good success with it. They love it. Hey Ken, unfortunately I can't type in the chat with where I'm at. I don't think.
Just do PrepperNet.net.
Yeah, I'll post a comment about that radio on the PrepperNet.net site later. If you go to Yaesu and look, so you got somebody wanting to buy your 857. I told you somebody would want to buy that rig.
I don't know how much it's worth. What's
so-
a fair price?
Are you asking me? Or are you
You're the
asking-
comms expert.
I don't know. I'd have to go look. Probably, I think I see them on eBay going usually around $800, somewhere in that ballpark.
You say
I would
18
investigate and say,
You 1,200 is what you said?
yeah, something like that. What he really wants is an ICOM 7300. So just trade him a 7300 for the 857, and it'll work.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jerry's saying he'll give you $1 for it. So anyway, yeah, so that's one of the things. The Yaesu would be a good choice. ICOM, I'm a huge ICOM fan as well. Any of the big three, the Kenwood, ICOM, Yaesu, those are, most of their stuff is pretty good. I did see someone ask one day about used radios recently, and I will tell folks, do your research, because some of the particular 15-plus-year-old radios, if you do want to get into digital comms, are going to make you pull your hair out. They're very difficult to get set up. The other thing is, a lot of radios were discontinued because the power amplifier section in them, the microchips, are discontinued. So if you break the radio, you're not going to be able to get it fixed. That's another issue that has become common. What would be used as a backup for communications and ham? I'm not sure.
That would be drums.
Yeah, or smoke signals or something like that.
Satellite, which we're looking into for PrepperNet.
Yeah, we are looking at some satellite stuff. That's a whole nother bag of worms.
Yes.
Wait.
I do want to say timeout.
Okay, Thunder Chicken, copy direct. I'm just going to say that. He'll know what I mean. I just figured out who that is. So.
Okay. I do want to say this, guys. PrepperNet, we do so many things. Tonight we're just talking about hams. We're getting kind of nerdy. That's fine.
We are.
But we do so many things. The idea is to meet local people in your group. And so everyone on here, if you're not in a group, contact us. We need to start one where you are.
Yeah.
And especially, in the ham people, a lot of people put their call sign up. My question is, are you involved in PrepperNet comms? Because we need you in PrepperNet comms. Again, if we get the people that are listening and they're asking questions and we get them involved in the local group.
Yeah. So do we have time for another question for us?
Do
we have an out time?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a couple more, and we probably need to end this soon.
Okay. So I want to pick on Rita Harris, just ask about sat phones. This reminded me of something. So sat phones, they have their place. They really do. I have a couple friends that have sat phones that spend a lot of time in the middle of nowhere, and it's certainly a viable solution. Depending on the circumstances, the conditions you're expecting to be a problem. If you spend a lot of time where cell phones don't work, or if you're planning to be in a disaster area, sat phones are a wonderful tool. In fact, we saw Starlink as well used extensively in some of the hurricanes this past year to handle communications that would have otherwise been used by radio. So this is what I wanted to mention about that. We're spending a lot of time talking about radio here. one of the things I don't want everyone to forget is communications is about communication. Radio is just one tool in the toolbox. So a lot of times folks want to use it as a hammer for everything. But we need to remember that the important thing about this is we need a way to communicate with each other, with the people around us, with the people, think of it as the layers of an onion, with my family, with my, mutual assistance group or whatever. And out and out and out to bigger and bigger circles, and realize that cell phones, continue to work for, have continued to work in a lot of disasters. They've continued to work during military invasions. They continue to work in some areas in Ukraine. So don't discredit having a plan to use, apps like Zello and Signal and, all these other things to be able to communicate, and use the best tool for the solution. Don't just, jump, oh, I got to go use my radios. Use what works best for you. And there's millions of choices out there and more stuff than we could ever possibly cover here in an hour and a half.
So let me do a commercial. If you're a PrepperNet premium member, I've put together, I think it's 4 or 5 webinars that are free for premium members. And one of the ones I posted not too long ago is called Emergency Family Plan. And in that, you put together, I go through, your bug out plan, your meeting places, your call signs, not like ham radio call signs, but there's also like a small communication plan in there as well. How are you going to, what order are you going to connect with your family and things, but that's in the PrepperNet premium members. I did one on, and the next one I'm putting together a cache one, because people do caches wrong, I think. I'd say I'm an expert cache person. I've actually buried up over 24 caches, because my group has been in existence for 20 years. And so I've buried in the ground over 24 caches. So I have a different way of doing it. I'm getting ready to release that one. I forgot, but one of them's on the family emergency plan. One's on your important documents. And so if you join, it's like $40 a year. You can have free access to that. And so, but that's like a personal family communication plan. So sorry about that. But yeah, so let's take a couple more. You find a couple more questions and we'll answer them, and then we will.
Yeah. So to finish up what I was doing, somebody commented about, we're worried about cell phone service going down. And if you got a question, get it in here right quick. But we also realize that there are a lot of circumstances where it doesn't. So use the best tool you've got until you don't have it anymore, and then move to the next one.
I will say this though, I'm not a big sat fan person, because the way satellite radios work, you got your sat phone, it goes up to a satellite, it beams it down to the ground, transfers that to the nearest ground location to the next satellite, transfers it back up to the sky, and then or out. So you're not, if the power's down on the ground, your sat phone does not work, is my end of story on that.
Yeah. And a big, huge thing that's not going to work in a hurricane, that kind of thing, it will.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard Lynn, for posting a link to that Yaesu radio I was talking about. Awesome job, man. Thank you. And then Carl mentioned a PACE plan. We can do a whole discussion on that, but yeah, have multiple plans: primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. Example of that would be real fast. Primary is PrepperNet.net. Use your city group to talk. Alternate could be your city group Zello channel. Contingency could be a local 2-meter or GMRS repeater, and emergency could be a simplex frequency on like an FRS radio or GMRS or whatever. And there's all kinds of things, and I realize folks may need a lot more explanation on that. And again, PrepperNet.net, we can do a lot more explanation on that here than we can, or there than we can here in the time constraints we have.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the thing. Somebody else also mentioned power. Almost all ham radio gear runs off of 12 volts. So 12 volt stuff for solar.
That pretty quick.
Yeah. But for anybody to see it, 12 volt stuff is fairly easy with solar. I got a couple 100 amp hours of lithium batteries on my station that run me for days. So yeah, that's the that's the gist of that. Another quick tip from kind of my pro tips thing on portable radios: look at portable radios that can be charged from a connection on the side of the radio from 12 volts and do not require a charging cradle. Because if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you've had to bug out and you find a car battery you can charge your radio off of, parked somewhere, you can charge your radio. You don't have to have 120 volts and a cradle charger. There you go. Yeah, sorry about the big gulps from a fire hose. Big broad topic. Hopefully we can do some Zoom meetings or some other stuff for folks that are interested at some point and that kind of thing, and dive a little deeper on some topics.
Yeah, and maybe we could do like we used to do the ham month thing, and I threw that at you, but I think you were too busy at the time.
I think rather than trying to pack it all into month, maybe we ought to do like one thing a quarter, give people some time to digest it. So now, do we need to get Vanna White or something out here to do the PrepperNet giveaway?
Well, let's just say this, and we'll sign off. But yeah, guys, hey, if this is all a foreign language to you, just get on PrepperNet.net, say, how do I get my technician license and possibly my general license at the same time? Because there's valid reasons to do both at one time or one at one time, and people will argue differently, but whatever would be best for you, and then get your license. And so the interesting thing about ham license, it's not like any other license. When you get your ham license, that means you have a license to learn.
Yep.
So you pass the test, then people will help you in a sense with your ham stuff. If you go to someone right now and say, hey, help me do this, they're going to say, dude, get your license first. Am I right, Patrick?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's one of those things where most folks, you got to learn how to do this. You got to actually get out there and use it. You got to push that push to talk button on the radio, and having a license lets you learn and do that kind of thing. And that sort of thing. For the antenna recommendation for the Yaesu, you want a mobile or a stationary antenna?
Great.
I'll let you respond.
No, we'll wait for him to respond. Then
we'll keep going, and I'll hit that before we sign off.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what were we saying first?
Well, here's one more. You can answer this real quick.
One sentence explanation of EchoLink, connecting repeaters to a voice over IP phone network. Both. Okay. For a stationary antenna at home, I would look at the Diamond. I think it's a DX50 is the antenna off the top of my head. And then for a mobile antenna, I would pick something that's designed for 2 meters and 70 centimeters that's made by probably Larson or Lyard or one of those antennas. I can't give you a part number because those companies make dozens of antennas, but they're good commercial antennas that won't give you issues. And I'll tell you what, I will write something up. It's not going to happen quick, but keep an eye on it. For some things, go search me on PrepperNet.net. I've posted articles on a bunch of different ham radio stuff that we've put together. I will write something on mobile radios and mobile radio installs and some information on that and post it. So,
yep. Okay. Thank you so much, Patrick. You do so much for our community. It's unreal. You should get paid $1 million.
I can give you the wire transfer codes.
Okay. Yeah. We'll post that on PrepperNet.net for everyone to do that. Hey, everyone, don't forget tomorrow night, preppernet.com/privacy. This is a free webinar that my friend Glenn is going to be putting on. He's kind of taking over the reins from me teaching everyone privacy and security, and it's going to be awesome. And then next week, if you remember, everybody get ready for the bug out bag week. And I got 2 experts. They're going to be on that. So, again, join PrepperNet.net. I know we said that 100 times, but hey, you just won't be in the loop unless you do it. Patrick, you're awesome. You did a great job, like I knew you would. we went down a few rabbit holes, but I expect that.
Yeah, that's just part of this. Yeah,
It's
all right.
part. It's just
I can't keep on topic.
yes. No, you did great. Awesome. So, hey, everyone, we will see you guys tomorrow night at the privacy webinar, and then next Monday night for the bug out week. You guys have a great week, and you guys take care and join. Did I say PrepperNet.net? Yeah.
You said PrepperNet.net.
Yep. You guys take care.